going to be talking all about highlights and how to tone your highlights, how to achieve that level of lightness that you want in your hair. And we're going to really go in depth in the application process of the highlights because I think that's the difficult part. And if you have been watching me for a while and you haven't subscribed, please hit that button and let's go right into the detail. So in the first part of this hair color tutorial that I've been doing, I talked all about hair color dye and when and how to apply it, right? But when you're talking about highlighting, you're just lifting levels. Now, I really went in depth into that subject in that first part. I'll have it linked here in the section below, and also I'll have it linked here on top. Now, I'll get into it briefly. When we're talking about levels of hair, we're talking about how dark or light your hair is. And when we're talking about highlighting, we're talking about lifting those levels to a level of lightness that we want, right? So when we're lifting levels, we're also going to see underlying pigments. And see, that's the thing when you're highlighting hair, the underlying pigments. So if you are almost a black or a very dark brown, the first level that you're gonna move to would be like a dark brown. Now, a dark brown, the underlying pigment that you'll see when you're lighting the hair, you know how the hair starts changing colors? You're gonna see a lot of like this reddish brown. Now, when you go a step lighter to a medium brown, you're gonna see a lot of just red. When you go a step lighter to a light brown, you'll see some red orange. Then you might go to a light brown and you'll see orange. The next step, you'll see just orange gold. Then you'll see a lot of gold underlying pigments. When you get to those oranges and golds, that's when you can see brassiness in the hair. So you'll see a lot of those underlying brassy pigments. When you get to that level 7 of lightness, level 8, you'll see a lot of that gold, orange gold color. Those are the colors that we cancel out when we tone hair. When you take your highlights out of the foil, you could either take your highlights out of the foil until it matches the highlights that you had on the end to make it all match and be the same, or you could take it out at the desired level that you want. So in my case, when I took my highlights out of the foil, I was very, very light, a level 9. I know then what kind of toner I can use. Use a toner that actually says 9, that's actually a 9 ash or a 9 beige. I'll give you another example. If when you took your highlights out, you had a level 7, you're gonna have a lot of orange there, a lot of orange underlying pigment. And you decide you're gonna just go and get a toner that's 9 ash, that a lot of toners are very light. You're not gonna tone anything. It will continue to stay. You could tone it all day. It may move the pigments a bit, but it's not gonna take the brassiness away. You have to tone on the same level. So if you came out at level 8, you're gonna use an 8 ash. If you came out on a level 7, you're gonna use a 7 ash. You understand? Hair dye over hair dye is not gonna lighten. It may tone a bit, but it's not gonna make a big difference. You have to stay on the same level of tone. So we're gonna have different kinds of ways to lighten hair. You can lighten hair with hair dye if you have natural virgin hair that has never been previously dyed before with a permanent color. You could probably do it with a hair dye using regular peroxides. You can also do it with these special hair lighteners that it's like a hair dye, but it's actually a lightener and a hair dye in one tube. So you'll be able to lighten the hair without that pressure of doing it quickly or that the bleach is going to dry out my hair. So you could do this with just a tube of hair dye that actually lightens the hair and also tones it in one step. And the third way is with bleach. That's actually what I'm going to be using here today. Use bleach on hair that has been previously dyed in the past, so it's not virgin hair, or even if it is virgin hair, if you want to lift more than 4 levels or 5 levels, that's when you're going to use bleach. So if you are all the way down here and your natural level is a level 4 and you want your highlights to be all the way up here, level 9, or you want to have the platinum blonde highlights, you need bleach. because you are lifting more than 4 levels and you're not going to do it with a hair dye. When you're working with bleach, you have to be constantly or every now and then checking the foils to make sure that once your hair has reached the level of lightness that you want, that's when you're going to remove the foil and rinse out the bleach. So if you already had that product on your hair over 20 minutes and the instructions say do not leave this on the hair more than 20 minutes, you should rinse it out even if you don't get to the level that of lightness that you wanted, because you could end up breaking your hair and compromising that integrity, making it very dry, very, very fragile, and that's not what you want to do. Always follow the instructions of the products that you're using. So the bleach that I'm using is from Schwarzkopf. It's a Vario Blonde Plus, and you can lift like 9 to 10 levels of hair color with this bleach. And you can mix this bleach 1-to-1. That means that I can bleach using 1 ounce of bleach and 1 ounce of peroxide, or you could do it 1-to-2, but I like to leave it a little thicker because once I mix in the olaplex, because I am going to be using olaplex as well to protect my hair, I mix it right into the bleach, and it does make my formula a little bit more watery, so I like to keep the formula itself a little thicker. When I mix the olaplex in my bleach, what I'm doing is protecting my hair as it lightens, because any chemical procedure, it could be a hair dye, it could be when you're coloring your hair, making it darker, especially when you're making it lighter, and especially when you're using bleach. A safe way to do it is using olaplex. There are other brands that will protect your hair as well, but I do like to use the olaplex brand. And what it's going to do is protect my hair as it lifts levels, and maybe protect it if you are a person who wants to lift a lot of levels. It'll protect it during that process. And I'll give you an example. Imagine that your hair is a vehicle, is a car, and the olaplex are the seatbelts in your car. It'll get you from point A to point B safely. But if during that ride, that process, you have an accident, the seatbelt may save your life. The same thing happens with the olaplex. The olaplex will get you from a dark level to a higher level, to a light level, and protect you along the way. And if for any reason the hair was going to be over processed, the olaplex will protect your hair during that process, so it doesn't break, so it doesn't dry out. It just makes it a lot smoother and a lot safer. So as you can see, after I retouched my grays, and you could see that now I really need to touch up my highlights. I have maybe like 1 inch of growth or 1/2 inch of growth from my scalp down to my highlights. So, and you could really see the difference between my natural hair level, which is that level 5, and the tone of my highlights is a lot lighter. So I'm going to divide my hair into sections. I like to use ponytails, and I'll part my hair exactly where I'd part it usually when I comb it, and that's where I'm going to be placing my foils. I'm not going to be placing foils in the back just because that's a lot more work, a lot harder, and I don't think it's necessary right now. Just to look like you have fresh highlights done, you really don't have to touch up the back right now. You should leave that to somebody who can actually see what they're doing and has a bit more experience. I also like to use this pintail comb instead of a regular rat tail comb, because the rat tail comb is a lot wider, and I don't want the weaving process or even the sectioning of the highlights to be chunky. I like them nice and thin. For the sides of my hair, I do need to touch up the highlights, but just like to do a little bit of eye wash just to make it look nice and pretty when I pull my hair back. I'm going to make the foils just vertically, just on the perimeter of my hair. And I don't like to touch those little baby hairs that you see in the front. They're so delicate and fragile. They will lighten really quickly and they could dry out quickly. So I usually don't touch them. So I'm going to hold my hair back now with a clip. And I'll just slice the hair right down the side there, vertical, and make nice, thin baby lights. Just like that. That's the weaving process. It's a little harder than when you do it horizontally, but it's a lot less work than foiling each section of that side. And then I just take the foil and I just fold it, and I'll use that to place the foil right close to my scalp, and I'll start applying the product. I don't let go of my hair until I also hold the foil, or the product that I'm using will hold the hair in place. I'll fold the edges of my foil, pin it in so it doesn't move because it's vertical, and start with my first horizontal section. I'm not doing back-to-back highlights because I like to leave a hair between the foils. It just looks more natural and I don't want to be that blonde. And when I start weaving with the back of my comb, I like to weave nice and thin. Now, if even though you do it thin, you see that the sections are still, the pieces of hair is still wide, you can come in from the bottom like I did and just pull them out so they don't appear to be too wide until you get the width of hair that you want. Just like that, just pull it out from the bottom. You could even use your fingers if you like. Now I'm ready to place my foil using the back of the comb again. I get very close to my scalp. I'm holding my hair down with my fingers and I start placing the product that's going to help me maintain the foil and the hair, like make them stick together. I like to feather up, you see, very close to my scalp without going too close and placing the whole brush close to my scalp, because I may end up with bleach in places that I don't want and it'll be stained. So I just use like the edge of my brush and just feather it up. And I didn't, if you can see, I didn't touch the ends of my hair because I don't want to over process that, and they were blonde to begin with, so I don't have to do it again. And now I'm just closing the foil using the back of my comb to fold it. You don't have to do it like this, it just makes it a little bit neater. Now I go on to my next section. As you can see, it's not back to back, and I'm just touching up. So basically on the top, I'll maybe have like 3 foils on each side, which isn't a lot at all, but it does make a big difference. So now I'll make a nice thin section and I'll start to weave. And you can see I could basically grab the highlights that I already did. I could grab them without taking additional hair and having that space totally blonde. I could just grab exactly the hair that I highlighted the last time and not appear to be blonder when I'm done. Just like that. So if you do it carefully, you can definitely just grab the pieces that you want to retouch. As I go, and again, I'm getting very close to the scalp. I'll fold my foil with the back of my comb. Just like that. Now I'm ready to go on to my next section. You don't really have to worry about the foil sliding down. If you closed it properly, it should be fine. Now with the clip, I'll just hold that back and I'm ready to work on my next section. You have to be careful when you're doing this part that you don't actually slice the hair too low, that you actually pull the hair that you have in the other foil. You don't want to pull those out. So do that carefully. And you just start the whole weaving process again. It takes a little bit of getting used to, but once you do it a couple of times, it's not that hard. So now I'm just holding the bottom of the hair again while I place that foil as close to the scalp as I can. And I'll start applying the product. You see, my comb is a bit dirty, so I'm going to eventually have to clean it, because if not, I'll get bleach on my fingers and possibly get it on other parts of my hair. And again, you just do the same process. Just feather it up as close to the scalp as you can without getting out of the foil. And apply the product. Hold that foil from the top. Just like that. If you want to bring it down, then just kind of like fold the hair little by little as you apply the product. Once you apply the product on the hair, it won't move from the foil. It'll just stick onto the foil. Fold the foil. As you can see, I want those bottom edges to completely cover the top of the foil, because if you leave part of it uncovered, first you're gonna end up staining hair that's not meant to have bleach on it, and it won't process the same. It won't be as light on the regrowth as it is on the bottom. So you want to make sure the bottom of your foil is also clean. So now I'm getting very close to the part of my hair that you actually see. And I believe those are a bit too wide, so I'll just come in from the bottom and make them nice and thin. I like them really nice and thin. They look so natural. This is what you call baby lights. Coming from the bottom just like that. And I think now I'm ready to go. Foil again over the comb. It's just a repetitive process. And again, come close to the scalp. And here I'm really careful not to bring that bleach anywhere that I don't want it. So I just want to just feather it up just a little bit as close to the scalp as I can. You see, once you have the bleach on, the foil isn't going to fall. I'll pull the hair out, like just to the side, and fold up my foil and just place it exactly to the height of the other part of the foil, the other edge, and fold. You could fold with your fingers or you can fold with the back of the comb. I'm going to do exactly the same process on the other side. There are some combs that I'll have a picture here. There are combs that are specially made for making highlights. They kind of look like they have teeth. And so when you, instead of doing the weave process with the back of the comb, you'd actually just put that comb in and let it do the weaving process for you. It's pretty cool. And here again, I'm just doing my weaving. Leaving the baby hairs out. You really don't want to touch those baby hairs because they can dry out really fast and they don't look pretty, and then they're so thin and they're right in the front, you can't hide it. So sometimes I just prefer not to apply anything to them. But it does make up for a lot of time that you could be spending doing that whole section of highlights. Just making one on each side just is so much faster. It's a real quick fix. Now I'm ready to start my way up. And I'm going to do exactly the same thing that I did on the other side. So keep in mind now, you already had if you're using bleach for this, the side that you already completed, by the time, so you usually leave the bleach on your hair depending on your hair, maybe 20 minutes, sometimes 30 minutes, sometimes 15 minutes, depending on your hair and how easily it lightens. You're going to have to be checking those highlights. But when you finish this whole side, that side will probably be done. So you'll have to go in and just rinse off that side of your hair and get the bleach out and let the side that you just finished working on process. Because if you wait until it's all done to take the highlights out all at the same time, one side is going to be a lot lighter than the other side and maybe even over processed. So keep that in mind. And again, I'm holding the foil from the top. This is so important. You don't let go until the bleach is on the hair. You don't have to bring it all the way down if the hair strand is already bleached on the bottom, because that's just a lot of product. You can use it if you want to just get rid of brassiness. You have to look at it. And sometimes if you're taking pieces that haven't been lightened in the past, then you want to bring it down. That was the case here. Here I'm starting again with the weaving process. It's actually easier for me to do my right side than my left side. And just apply it. As you can see, those highlights are nice and thin. I think the higher I go, the thinner my highlights are. So the closer to the part of my hair that you see, my highlights start getting thinner and thinner, very baby highlight-like, because I think it looks more natural. When I go in the back or on the sides, I could be a little bit more careless and make them a little chunkier. See, in this case, I left the ends out. I'm not letting go of the top part of the foil until I completely match them up. You see, now they're completely like the same height. And now I fold the end. Okay, I sliced my next piece. So I think I'll be doing maybe 2 foils more. That's the way I pin it, just so it doesn't fall on the rest of the hair, because it could get messy. So trying to be as neat as possible is key here. And just lift up those see how thin they are? Very, very thin. Very thin that sometimes I can't see them if I'm too far away from the mirror like I am now. The mirror is quite far away. Like, the mirror is very far away. So I can't really see, but as you can see, they're nice and thin. That one is too thick, so I'll just take it out from the bottom. This is like going really into detail, but I really wanted you to see how I'm doing it. See, at first I don't go all the way up, and then I start to work my way up when I have less product on my brush. As you can see, I'm just like applying the product, but just very carefully getting close to my scalp, because if you make a mistake here, it'll be very noticeable. I mean, anything can be fixed, but it will be very noticeable. So with the side of my brush, I just feather it on, fold my foil again. I'm leaving those ends out because that part of my hair is very blonde, so I don't need to apply the product to the ends. Just cleaning off my hands. And now close the foil and you're on to your last section. And that one is going to be back to back with the one next to it, because that's where I part my hair. But even though they're back to back, I always keep in mind that I want to make them extra thin there, especially because it's back to back with that foil. Now get that foil again close to the scalp, and you could really see here how I come close to the edge without bringing it completely horizontal, not placing the brush horizontally close to my scalp. What the bleach will do is that it will like expand a bit and swell a bit, so it'll come up naturally without me having to actually bring the bleach all the way up to my scalp. It'll swell on its own and it'll come up. So now I just have to process it and wait. I usually wait 15 to 20 minutes before I even check. And this is what it looks like on the side that's already done. It's been processed. So I'll wash that out and then move on to the next side to wash out when it's done. This is the product that I use to tone my hair. It's called the Expert Mousse from Schwarzkopf. And it comes in all different shades. And it's like this ball of mousse. And this is how I apply it to my hair. And I bring it all the way down to the ends. And this color is a beige color or a champagne color. So it's gonna not be gold, but it's not gonna be too ashy either. It's just right. It's just this beautiful beige color, like almost a champagne color. It's really nice. You could also apply that product, that mousse, you can apply it to dry hair as well and just tone the highlights that you already had as well. Sometimes I tone my highlights between highlighting process, like maybe if I'm going to do them every month and a half, I'll apply that product to my hair maybe every 2 weeks, once every 2 weeks, and my highlights always look shiny and healthy and not brassy at all. Another thing that I love about these toners, especially the foam toner, the one that's in a mousse, is that it's not only great for toning. This color system comes like in darker shades as well. So let's say you did your highlights and you got a little bit of bleach somewhere other than where it was supposed to be. So maybe you have like a little dot of bleach on your hair and it made that little dot is lighter, right? If you could take the mousse in just the same color of your base color, whatever color you have, and just apply it there, it'll cover it. It'll cover it and you won't see it. And it'll fade so slowly that by the time you do highlights again, they'll cover that spot and you won't ever see it again. Also, maybe you don't want to highlight your hair, but the highlights are really grown out and you don't want to dye your hair a dark color because you do love your highlights and you don't want to make a permanent decision. You could use a temporary color like this and just apply it all over your hair and cover the highlights, and it's just a temporary fix until you get to go to your hair colorist again. So you don't have to completely commit to having darker hair. Just cover them for a little while and you'll look good. And you could just even darken them so it's not such a big contrast between the lightness of the highlight and the darkness of your base color. You could just darken them a bit, choosing a tone that you want, and you'll be fine. So just know that you can play with the toners, not only just to tone highlights, but to tone your hair color and to fix mistakes as well. I've done it and it's one of my favorite products from the Schwarzkopf hair dye line. That's one of those mousses. I cannot live without them. And I will always use them. I hope they never stop making them. And this is the end result. As you can see, the highlights are nice and thin. The color came out beige. It's just this beautiful beige color, not too ashy, not too gold. It's just right. And the highlights are really close to the scalp. And when I pull it back, you can see like the sides. And I hope this information was useful. I hope it helps you see that you can maintain your highlights even if you're not visiting a salon. Maybe you don't want to do the whole process of highlighting your hair and just tone them. Well, then just get a simple toner, and keep in mind if your hair is virgin or if it's not before you're choosing the toner that you're gonna need, and the level of highlights that you are on. So you want to see if you're a level 8, a 9, so you can buy the appropriate toner for your highlights. And I really hope this helped you. And if it did, go ahead, like it and share it with someone who you think may find it useful as well. And until the next time, bye.